Salt does not shout, it does not move, and yet it transforms everything it touches. In life, it is not always the loudest force that shifts your reality, but the quiet disciplines you keep in sacred places. Let us pause here. Have you ever walked into a space and instantly felt the weight of something that wasn't spoken, but was present? That is energy. And energy has memory, not only in rooms, but in people, in objects, in gestures, in habits. And when you begin to consciously place salt in key places of your home, you're not performing a superstition. You are performing a reminder, a sacred signal to your mind, to your nervous system, and to your soul. I am the keeper of peace here. I invite in what nourishes. I release what pollutes. There's an ancient belief that salt, when placed at the entrance of a home, has the power to purify, protect, and preserve. It does not create noise. It doesn't force its presence. Yet, its effect is unmistakable. In its simplicity lies its strength. Just as a small pinch of salt can transform the taste of a meal, a small shift in how we protect the entrance to our inner life, our mind, our emotions, our relationships, can change the whole flavor of our human experience. Think of the doorway of your home. It's a threshold, a place between what is inside and what is outside. In many cultures, salt is placed there not because of superstition, but because of intention. It reminds us that every space we dwell in, physical or emotional, must have boundaries. The front door is where energy either enters to nourish or invades to disrupt. What we allow to cross that line over time determines not only the peace of our household, but the clarity of our own soul. There is a story from a small village in the mountains of Sichuan. An elderly woman, known for her wisdom and peace, would place a small bowl of salt at her door every morning before sunrise. When asked why, she smiled and said, "Because every day brings winds from the outside. Not all of them are meant to settle here." That salt became her silent sentinel, a way to remind herself that though she cannot control the winds, she can control what enters her home. When we speak of boundaries, especially in the context of relationships, it is often misunderstood. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They don't prevent love, they preserve it. Just as salt preserves food from decay, boundaries preserve our emotional and spiritual well-being. The nervous system, particularly the reticular activating system in the brainstem, serves a similar function. It decides what sensory information is worth your attention and what should be ignored. When we lack boundaries in relationships, it is as if this internal filter is damaged. We allow in everything, every word, every mood, every projection from another person, until we are overwhelmed. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt completely drained, even though the person had not said anything overtly aggressive or cruel? That is often not the result of what was said, but of what was allowed to enter repeatedly, unfiltered. Every sigh, every rolling of the eyes, every subtle criticism, like 1,000 grains of salt dissolving in your emotional body, can eventually overwhelm your peace. To place salt at the door is not only symbolic, it is a conscious act of returning to self-awareness. There is a quiet form of emotional discipline in choosing what we allow ourselves to absorb. Just as one would not allow a stranger to walk into their home and rearrange the furniture, we should not allow every emotional turbulence from others to rearrange our internal state. There is strength in standing still, in protecting the entrance to our energy with grace, not aggression. We must ask, who do we allow in? And on what terms? Do we open the door just because someone knocks? Or do we ask if their presence is nourishing or draining, if their energy is aligned or chaotic? In relationships, many people confuse kindness with availability, but availability without discernment becomes vulnerability. Emotional openness is a gift, but without salt, without boundaries, it invites erosion. The erosion of self-respect, the erosion of emotional clarity, the erosion of peace. A woman once came to me and said, "Master, I don't understand. I give so much in my relationships. I listen, I care, I love deeply. But I always feel like people take advantage of me." I asked her, "When you open your door, do you first ask if the person brings peace or pain? Do you listen to the tone of their footsteps, the intention behind their smile, or do you simply welcome them in because you fear being alone?" She was silent. Loneliness is not always the absence of people. Sometimes, it is the absence of boundaries. When you let everyone in, even those who carry chaos, you may be surrounded, but never connected. You may be loved, but not respected. You may be available, but never truly seen. Place salt at your doorway, not to keep people out, but to teach yourself to pause, to breathe, to ask, is this energy meant for me? To protect your emotional and spiritual integrity. When you do this, something powerful happens. You begin to sense the difference between connection and obligation, between healthy intimacy and silent manipulation. You begin to feel what it means to be in a space that supports your growth rather than one that drains it. And you begin to carry this awareness into every relationship, romantic, familial, professional. You become the gatekeeper of your own energy, not with hostility, but with honor. This transforms not only how others treat you, but how you treat yourself. It sharpens your emotional perception. You start recognizing patterns in others, noticing when someone's presence dims your light, even if their words are sweet. You begin to identify manipulation not through what is said, but through how you feel when you're around them. This is not magic. This is emotional intelligence. This is the result of standing guard at your own doorway. Now shift your awareness to another place in the home, the corners. Have you ever noticed how dust gathers in the corners of a room, no matter how often you clean? The corners, neglected and quiet, become receptacles for what no longer serves. In the same way, the corners of our lives, the forgotten conversations, the lingering emotions, the unspoken resentments, can become filled with energetic debris. Salt placed in the corners is not about superstition. It is about sweeping away what the mind avoids. It is about clarity. Eastern traditions often speak of Kwai, the vital life force that flows through all living things. When Kwai stagnates, the body suffers. Muscles stiffen, the mind fogs. Relationships turn sour. In traditional Chinese medicine, stagnation is seen as the root of many ailments, not just physical but emotional. Resentment, regret, guilt, these are the dust of the spirit. And just as salt absorbs moisture, it also symbolizes the absorption and transmutation of emotional weight. Salt in the corners serves as a ritual of renewal. It asks you to look not only at what is central in your life, but at what is pushed to the sides. The small things you keep avoiding, the silent griefs you never speak of, the conversations you never finish, the apologies you never give, the forgiveness you withhold, not just from others, but from yourself. There was once a monk who said to his student, "Before you meditate, sweep the temple. Before you pray, clean the floor. Before you chant, wash your bowl." The student asked, "Why must I clean before I seek wisdom?" The monk replied, "Because wisdom cannot enter a cluttered space. Cleanliness is not for the room. It is for your mind." Many relationships fail not because of what is done in the center, but because of what is ignored in the corners. The quiet disconnections, the slow buildup of unspoken discomfort, the subtle ways we withdraw without words. A marriage may have beautiful moments at the surface, anniversaries, vacations, shared meals. But if emotional stagnation has gathered in the corners, the atmosphere becomes heavy. Conversations lose their spark, intimacy becomes duty, and connection begins to fade like sunlight in a dusty room. When you place salt in the corners of your home, you are saying, "I will no longer ignore what is pushed aside." It is a practice of intentional presence, a way of saying, "Let me clean up the inner atmosphere." From a psychological perspective, this mirrors the practice of mental hygiene, recognizing emotional clutter and addressing it before it becomes a pattern. A man once told me, "Master, I don't know why I feel angry all the time. My life is good. My job is fine. My family loves me." I asked him, "When was the last time you sat in silence and swept the corners of your inner room?" He looked puzzled. I explained, "Anger often arises not because something is wrong now, but because something old was never processed. Your mind may have moved on, but your body remembers. Your emotions remember. Emotions, like water, always seek expression. If blocked, they stagnate. If denied, they ferment. When you feel irritation, moodiness, or heaviness without reason, it may not be random. It may be residue. Just as a room with clean furniture can still feel dirty if the corners are untouched, a life with achievements can still feel incomplete if old emotions remain neglected. Salt is crystalline in structure. It reflects light, refracts clarity. And when we bring salt into the corners of our life, we do the same. We reflect on what we've ignored. We bring clarity where there was haze. Neuroscience supports this. showing that unprocessed emotional experiences can remain active in the brain's limbic system, triggering subtle but persistent stress responses. Over time, this leads to emotional fatigue, reactivity, even illness. But awareness changes the chemistry. Presence rewires the brain. This is not philosophy. This is physiology. In relationship dynamics, emotional stagnation shows up as repetition. The same argument, the same cold silence, the same misunderstanding. When you see this pattern, understand the corner is calling you. Something has been left there. A hurt you pretended